Frank Adler lives in a small town in Florida and is raising his 7-year-old niece Mary alone. Today is the first day of school, but she flatly refuses to go. The girl believes that homeschooling is quite enough for her. Moreover, while she is away, there will be no one to play with the cat. The man says the cat will manage somehow, and he is not going to continue this argument. Before she leaves, Frank asks his niece not to stand out at school and to just be like everyone else. A neighbour watches from the sidelines. The man explains that he doesn't want to deprive the child of her childhood, and for that, she needs to spend time with her peers. In the first lesson, Miss Stevenson gives the children simple math problems, like 2 + 2, and the whole class answers in unison. Unable to bear it, Mary interrupts the teacher, criticising the school curriculum. Bonnie, after reprimanding the girl, punishes her by asking her to solve more complex problems in her head, up to multiplying 3-digit numbers. After thinking for a moment, the girl gives the correct answer. At the end of the school day, Frank comes to pick up his niece. Bonnie catches up with him outside and informs him that his daughter is very advanced for her age, having easily solved difficult math problems in her head. Smiling, the man replies that Mary simply learned a method of fast calculation and there's nothing genius about it. Frank works as a boat repairman at a marina. His flexible schedule allows him to spend a lot of time with the little girl. He also often takes her on outings, during which Mary behaves like an ordinary child and temporarily forgets about studying. Despite her initial disdain for her peers, Mary gradually adapts to school and even begins to socialise with her classmates. For show and tell, she brings her one-eyed cat, Fred, and happily talks about him in front of the whole class. During the next math lesson, the teacher decides to give a test. Before she can finish explaining the rules, she receives the answer sheet from Mary. Anticipating this, the woman gives the girl an additional assignment from the senior year curriculum. Mary completes it without a single error. Convinced of her student's giftedness, Bonnie searches for information about her and soon finds an article about her deceased mother. Diana Adler was an outstanding mathematician who worked on one of the most difficult math problems. One day, the woman couldn't handle the pressure and took her own life, leaving her 6-month-old daughter, Mary, an orphan. That evening, the teacher finds Frank at a bar to learn the whole truth about the girl. It turns out that besides her uncle, Mary has a grandmother and a worthless father who abandoned her mother during pregnancy. Frank blames himself for his sister's death, believing he didn't pay enough attention to her. He is afraid the little girl might share Diana's fate, so he tries to provide her with a full childhood. The next day on the school bus, Mary stands up for a classmate and breaks a bully's nose. Because of this incident, Frank is called to the school. Miss Stevenson told the principal about her student's mathematical talent, so they decided not to expel her. Instead, the principal offered to help transfer the girl to a top private school for gifted children, where Mary could receive a proper education. After listening to the offer, Frank still refuses, based on his family's experience. He is afraid that Mary, in such an institution, would be deprived of many things. While attending a regular school, the girl will surely grow up to be a decent person, and that will be enough. Meanwhile, the principal contacted Mary's grandmother, Evelyn, and told her about the situation. Evelyn is a very strict person, always focused only on results. She believes the environment the child is in is substandard, and in such conditions, the girl cannot have a normal future. Mary should study in a special institution and dedicate her life to mathematics, as her mother did. However, Frank is convinced otherwise. He believes the little girl should be in a regular school, and it is very important for her to have a real childhood, which he and Diana never had. Failing to reach an agreement, Evelyn advises her son to prepare for a court hearing. Later, Bonnie also shows up at the bar. While talking, the two get drunk and end up at Frank's place. The time for the court hearing arrives. At the preliminary hearing, Evelyn's lawyer manages to arrange for his client to meet with the child on the weekend. The grandmother takes the girl to the city and brings her to the mathematics department. She also tells her granddaughter about the Navier-Stokes equation, which her mother worked on unsuccessfully. The woman's trick worked. Mary starts thinking about continuing the family legacy. Later, Evelyn takes the girl to a professor she knows to assess her potential. The man gave the girl a complex mathematical equation to solve, but this time, Mary failed the task. Outside, she confesses to her grandmother that the equation was not difficult at all, and in fact it was unsolvable due to an error the professor made. Returning to the classroom, the girl corrects the formula and correctly writes out the entire solution. Upon returning home, Mary sees a child psychologist as required for the court proceedings. While waiting, the girl confesses to Frank that she enjoyed staying with her grandmother, but does not want to live with her. The man comforts the little girl and promises he won't lose the case. At the first court session, Evelyn's lawyer calls Mary's biological father and legal guardian to testify. In his testimony, the father renounces his parental rights in favour of Mrs. Adler. The opposing lawyer easily proves to the court that the man is not the natural guardian for the girl, and therefore his opinion cannot be considered. At home, Mary becomes very upset when she learns that her biological father was in town and didn't even come to see her. To calm her down, Frank takes her to the maternity ward and asks her to wait without explanation. After a while, a stranger appears in the lobby and announces the birth of his son to his family. Frank explains to Mary that this is a joyful event for the whole family, just like when she was born. At the next court session, we learn that Frank was a professor at Boston University, but after his sister's death, he abandoned teaching to raise the little girl. Evelyn's lawyer insists that Frank is a simple loser who wants to ruin his niece's life. Mary was recognised as mathematically gifted, but the man refused to enrol her in a prestigious school. Frank's lawyer also manages to portray Evelyn in a bad light. He insists that the woman was very demanding of her children, and Diana took her own life, unable to withstand the pressure, meaning it is dangerous to grant her custody of the child. After hearing both sides, the judge postpones the decision. That evening, the lawyer proposes a deal to Frank, which he has already coordinated with Evelyn's representatives. They will find a good foster family for Mary and transfer her to a private school chosen by the grandmother. Both parties will have the right to scheduled visits, and when the girl turns 12, she can decide for herself where and with whom she wants to live. The next day, the man meets with the foster parents and agrees on all the details. Frank, in a hopeless position, agrees to the terms and later brings Mary to her new family. The girl starts crying and begs him not to leave her, reminding her uncle of his promise. But he leaves silently, barely holding back tears. Left alone, Frank buries himself in work to keep busy and not think about what happened. On the scheduled day, the man goes to visit his niece. The father of the family stops him at the door and says that Mary refused to see him. She is still under stress, so it's better to reschedule the visit. Returning home, Frank is restless. Looking at his niece's belongings, he begins to regret his decision. One day, he accidentally sees an advertisement for an animal shelter featuring a photo of Fred. Upon learning that the cat is to be euthanized, Frank immediately goes to the shelter and, after talking with the staff, begins to suspect who could have done this. The man takes the cat home, grabs a box of Diana's belongings and goes to the foster family's house, where Evelyn is staying in the guest house. The woman had arranged with the foster parents and hired excellent math tutors for her granddaughter for extra classes. Seeing her uncle, the little girl starts crying and runs out of the house. A touching scene unfolds outside, where Frank apologizes for his actions. The two reconcile. Returning to the house, the man asks the tutors to leave, then hands his mother the complete proof of the Navier-Stokes equation. It turns out Diana had succeeded. She gave the finished solution to Frank and asked him to publish it only after her death. Understanding how important this work was to her mother, agrees to Frank's proposed exchange. Full custody of the girl in return for the proof. In the next scene, we see Mary among university students at a higher mathematics lecture. After class, Frank picks her up and takes her to a playground, where the girl happily plays with her peers.